In the early morning hours, under a sky painted with streaks of crimson and gold, Flight 247 prepared for what was supposed to be a routine journey. It was a calm day, visibility was clear, and the crew, led by Captain Richard Hale, one of the most experienced pilots in the fleet, ran through the standard pre-flight checks. Passengers were boarding, chatting, and settling into their seats, unaware that they were about to become part of one of the most haunting mysteries in aviation history. At exactly 7:42 a.m., Flight 247 rolled down the runway and lifted into the sky. Air traffic control noted a smooth takeoff and a normal ascent. Everything appeared standard, every number perfect. But within just 2 hours, the plane would vanish completely. No distress call, no radar trace, no wreckage. It was as if the aircraft had been erased from existence. The story of Flight 247 begins at an international airport in South America. The plane, a state-of-the-art jetliner with advanced navigation systems, was scheduled to travel north, crossing the equator before landing in Miami. It carried 239 passengers and crew, representing more than 15 different nationalities. There were families returning home, business travelers, and students excited for a new life abroad. The aircraft itself had a flawless maintenance record and a veteran flight crew. Nothing suggested that anything could go wrong. For the first 90 minutes, the flight was smooth. Communication between the cockpit and ground control was routine. Then, at 9:13 a.m., the plane made its final known transmission, Flight 247, maintaining level at 350. It was calm, clear, and professional. A few minutes later, the blip representing the aircraft disappeared from radar. Air traffic controllers tried repeatedly to re-establish contact. No response. Within minutes, panic began to rise in the control tower. Search and rescue teams were immediately dispatched. At first, they believed it might be a simple transponder malfunction, a technical glitch that would be corrected soon. But as hours turned into days, and days into weeks, not a single trace of the aircraft was found. No debris, no oil slick, no emergency beacon. The ocean beneath the flight path was scanned with ships, sonar, and satellites. Every possible trajectory was calculated, yet the plane that took off never came back. Families of the passengers waited at airports, clinging to hope. Photos of loved ones filled the news, and around the world, millions followed the updates. Theories began to spread like wildfire. Some said the plane had been hijacked and forced to land on a remote island. Others claimed it had disintegrated midair due to an explosion. Still others whispered darker possibilities, that the aircraft had flown into another dimension, a place where time itself stands still. Investigators faced an impossible challenge. Without wreckage, there was no evidence to study. No black box, no flight recorder, no sign of impact. The official investigation spanned multiple countries and involved some of the most advanced technology available at the time. Satellite data was examined, military radar records were rechecked, but each lead ended in nothing. The disappearance of Flight 247 became one of aviation's greatest unsolved mysteries. To understand how a modern aircraft could simply vanish, experts began to look back at history. They recalled similar cases, planes that took off and were never seen again. The most famous of these was Flight 19, a group of U.S. Navy bombers that disappeared in the Bermuda Triangle in 1945. Experienced pilots, flying in clear weather, suddenly lost their bearings and vanished without a trace. Decades later, the wrecks were never conclusively found. Could Flight 247 have met a similar fate? The Bermuda Triangle, a stretch of ocean between Florida, Bermuda, and Puerto Rico, has long been infamous for mysterious disappearances of ships and planes. Though scientists have explained many of these incidents as navigational errors or natural phenomena, the legends persist. Flight 247's last known position was far from that region, but the pattern was eerily similar. A sudden loss of contact, no distress signal, no debris. It was as if the sky itself had swallowed the aircraft whole. As investigators struggled, Satellite analysts noticed something unusual, a faint, unexplained signal detected several hours after the disappearance, hundreds of miles off course. It wasn't strong enough to confirm, but it suggested that the plane might have continued flying long after communication was lost. Could the aircraft have been deliberately diverted? Could someone in the cockpit have reprogrammed the flight path? The possibility of a hijacking couldn't be ruled out. Intelligence agencies combed through passenger manifests. They checked every background, every connection. Nothing conclusive emerged. The pilots were respected professionals with no signs of instability. The passengers were ordinary people. No one fit the profile of a saboteur. Yet somehow the plane was gone. Months passed. A piece of debris washed ashore on a remote island in the Indian Ocean. It was small, barely recognizable, but bore a serial number linked to the missing aircraft model. Hope surged again. Search efforts were redirected, this time across thousands of square miles of deep ocean. Massive ships deployed sonar, underwater drones scanned the seabed, and satellites tracked faint traces of possible wreckage. But again, the trail went cold. Aviation experts began to focus on one chilling scenario: controlled flight into the ocean. The theory suggested that the plane continued flying until it ran out of fuel, then descended gently into the sea, breaking apart upon impact and sinking intact to depths too great to explore. The idea was haunting, because it implied that for hours after losing contact, the passengers were still alive, unaware of what awaited them. One recovered satellite ping indicated the aircraft may have turned sharply south, heading toward one of the most isolated stretches of water on Earth. No radar coverage, no ships, just endless empty ocean. If that data was accurate, it meant the aircraft flew for nearly 7 hours after its last radio message. Someone had to be in control. The question was, who? Conspiracy theories exploded online. Some believed the plane had been intercepted by a foreign military. Others suggested it was a top, secret government operation gone wrong. A few even linked it to extraterrestrial encounters, pointing to strange lights reported by fishermen along the flight path that night. The internet was flooded with speculation, documentaries, and eyewitness claims. But without evidence, everything remained conjecture. In the years that followed, Flight 247 became more than just a tragedy. It became a symbol. A symbol of how, even in the modern age of GPS, satellites, and constant connectivity, the world can still lose something so massive, so human, without explanation. Families of the victims formed support groups. Memorials were built, and yet every anniversary reignited the same painful question: where did the plane go? Psychologists studying the case found something profound. They discovered that human beings are deeply disturbed by disappearance without closure. When something vanishes, an aircraft, a person, a ship, it leaves an emotional wound that never fully heals. We need answers, even painful ones, to find peace. For the families of Flight 247, peace never came. Over time, more fragments were discovered. Tiny, weathered pieces of metal and insulation washed ashore thousands of miles apart. Each discovery reignited both hope and sorrow. Could these fragments really belong to the missing flight? Forensic tests confirmed some matches, but the evidence remained partial. The main wreckage, and with it the flight recorders, were never found. Deep-sea exploration teams suggested that the aircraft may rest at a depth of over 15,000 feet, far beyond the reach of most recovery technology. Even today, the ocean guards its secrets well. Currents shift wreckage over time, sediment buries evidence, and pressure destroys fragile materials. The sea, vast and silent, becomes the final resting place for countless mysteries. Years passed, but the fascination with Flight 247 never faded. Documentaries, books, and investigations kept the story alive. Some called it the modern Mary Celeste of the skies, a plane that simply disappeared into thin air. Pilots, engineers, and experts debated endlessly over what could have happened. Was it a fire, a depressurization, a deliberate act, or something we still cannot comprehend? What makes this mystery even more haunting is how ordinary the flight began. People boarding, families waving goodbye, luggage being loaded, the everyday rituals of travel. No one on that morning could have imagined that every routine moment was the last coffee, the last announcement, the last breath of sunlight through the cabin window. In the years since, technology has improved. Aircraft tracking systems are now far more advanced. Real-time global satellite monitoring ensures that every commercial jet can be located almost anywhere on Earth. Black boxes can now transmit data even underwater, but these changes came too late for Flight 247. Sometimes progress is written in tragedy. In the shadows of this disappearance lies a simple truth. Even the most advanced machines are still vulnerable to the unknown. Nature, technology, and human error form a delicate balance. A storm in the wrong place, a miscalculation at the wrong time, or a single failure in communication can rewrite history. For many, the story of Flight 247 is more than a mystery. It's a reminder of humility. For all our achievements, we are still at the mercy of forces greater than ourselves. The sky that connects us can also take us away, without warning and without explanation. To this day, oceanographers, engineers, and aviation authorities continue to study the data. Small research missions still occasionally search remote areas, hoping for a clue. Families of the lost still light candles each year, refusing to give up hope that one day the truth will surface. Maybe a new satellite will detect a signal. Maybe a storm will uncover a piece of wreckage hidden for years beneath the waves. But until then, Flight 247 remains one of the great unsolved mysteries of our time. A plane that took off, carrying hundreds of lives and countless stories, and simply vanished into the sky. No crash site, no farewell, only silence, and in that silence there lingers a haunting question that refuses to fade. How can something so large, so real, disappear completely in an age when we can track everything? Perhaps the answer is that the world still holds secrets we are not meant to uncover. For those who lost loved ones, every unanswered question is a wound. Every unreturned message, every unclaimed seat, is a reminder of how fragile certainty can be. When a plane takes off, we trust science, skill, and human precision to bring it home. But sometimes, despite all our progress, the sky keeps its secrets. Maybe one day the ocean will give up its silence. Maybe the wreckage will be found, and the final minutes of Flight 247 will be understood. But until that day, it remains the flight that took off and never came back.